Lovely, probably Italianate. Oh, I have to go to last month's to get the information on it. It was first appears in city directories in 1894, but it could be older. The occupant there at 34 Fifth Street was William H. Boylan, who was a painter, and he lived there until 1914, and he had a wife named Mary. Features tall, narrow 1/1 windows arranged symmetrically, flatboard trim in the front gable, and a wraparound front porch. I'm realizing that you guys just saw this a couple of months ago for a bunch of other work that was done here. So for a bilco door and a lanai in the back. So I'm not going to get too much into this. But the house has had various modifications over the years. Most notably for this petition is that it used to have aluminum siding that got taken off. And if you look closely at the windows, you'll notice that the window trim is a little bit wonky. Some of it's still aluminum, some of it's wood. The sills have been cut off. You know, it looks great from a distance here. But when you're up close, you realize that something sort of strange is going on. Let's see. So this is the south side of the house. As you'll recall, everything from this second floor bump out and beyond is an addition. And this is from the neighbor's house, the sidewalk in front of their house. I only included it to show that you wouldn't be able to see the proposed garage at all from here, completely behind the house. Okay, I guess I set this up to do siding first, so let's talk about siding. Walking our way around the house, when the addition was built, this wall's siding was replaced, as was everything under the front porch on the front and side. And I think I've got a close-up in a minute of that siding. I believe it's wood. It wasn't installed in a way that matches very well. Up here is historic siding, and you can see that there's some degradation here. I've blown it up. When you're indoors, which I'll show you in a minute, see this board's coming off. You can see daylight up here. The flashing is all messed up, and there's a lot of everything getting in there. So this is under the porch. You can see this is the new siding. They finished it with nails on the outside. I don't know why, because that's not how it was in the rest of the the house originally, but it does that all the way around the front. I believe that this siding up here, you can see it has a much deeper shadow line, and it's narrower a little bit than what's down here. I believe that is original wood siding over the top of the porch, but not under it. The siding is not in perfect condition. It needs paint, it needs scraping. But more importantly, the contractor rather, who's here with us tonight, is concerned that when he takes off all of that siding to put sheathing underneath it, which there's not very much of on this house at all, that he's going to lose most of that historic siding, if not all of it. And now I'll take you through the inside. On the left, you see, looking out onto the porch, this is where the work was already done. They replaced the siding, they put sheathing, you know, on the other side of the studs here, something to nail the siding to. Contractor's not crazy about how they did it, but this is how they did this wall. On one of the sides of the house, on the first floor where there's a little bump out, there is sheathing in the form of boards. It's just boards that were stacked up, nailed to the studs, and then the siding is applied to the exterior of those boards. But it's just one little room on the first floor. Now, let's see, this looks like we're upstairs, and throughout the house there is a row of insulation blow-in holes that have been filled with little wood plugs that, if they were to be kept, would probably need to be redone and need some more work. You can see where those are. And this is just the siding that you're looking at in these photos. There's nothing between you and the outdoors except this lap siding. Here's a couple more pictures. This is the interior shot of what I was trying to show you on top of that side of the front porch, where there's just boards missing and things. Obviously, weatherproofing is a big concern here, because if they put the sheathing on the inside, then there's just going to be a big gap there and water's going to get in there, and it's going to further degrade. And this is also upstairs on the lower right, just a shot of an entire wall. I think there's rock going on. You can see at the bottom of this one as well, underneath that saw table. This is just a cool photo. There's nothing wrong with it. This is the new ceiling framing, and I threw this in here because I love seeing things like this in old houses. That's the sheathing on the roof. Sorry, I don't have a mouse. Oh, no, go back. It's my favorite picture. So this is where the ceiling will be attached to. These boards are like 18 to 24 inches wide. And so they cut down this big honking tree just to put their roof shingles on. And they're really cool, and I hope they last forever. And there's no proposed changes to those. Here, some of these are photos from last month's review committee, some are from this month, some are from the applicant. This is just to show you the backyard and the garage that's back there now, which you've already been introduced to earlier. It is not from the period of significance. It does have quite a bit of room behind it. And note where the front of this is, and that the new garage will be pushed back. I think it's about 6 feet from where this is now, farther toward the backyard. Here we are standing in front of the house, looking back at that garage. There are concerns about big trees. I think a couple of large tree limbs would have to be removed in order to put a new structure, even if it's farther back than this. But there is no proposal to take either of these trees out. Current garage. Okay. When we showed up for the review committee on Monday, the contractor had put up this this board with a balloon on the end, showing us how high the new the midpoint of the gable roof on the new garage would be. So, for zoning purposes, on a pitched roof, we measure to the midpoint of the gable, not all the way up to the roof ridge. So it'd be a little bit taller than this, but you'll see that on the drawings. This is the midpoint of the roof. And this picture is taken from, on the right, from the sidewalk out front, so even farther back. Design of the garage with an ADU over the top of it. Simple, straightforward, rectangular. It's got a little awning here over the person door facing the street, and an overhead door for vehicles. North and south sides, again, very plain. It is 4-inch exposure horizontal wood siding, and the windows are Anderson clad windows. Foundation is 30 by 20. There's a cross section with a lot of details that you have in your packet. And here's the site drawing. We've got the existing house, concrete drive, and the current garage is a little farther forward than this one. It's actually pretty close to where it says 5.24 feet. That's maybe it's a little bit farther back than that, but it is being pushed to within 3 feet and on the side and 5 feet on the back, which is good because it's very tall and you want to push it back to make it recede as much as possible. I think the windows are shown with muttons in the drawings, but elsewhere it said that there would be no muttons. So we might want a little clarification on that. I don't think it matters either way, but would be good to know current thinking on that. The person door is fiberglass, and it's approximately 25 feet to the house's roof ridge. So 21 feet to the midpoint of the gable, 25 to the ridge. Okay. From the Secretary of Interior standards, I'm going to have a lot of standards and guidelines, so bear with me here for a minute. The historic character of a property will be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration of features and spaces that characterize a property will be avoided. Number 5 says distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize a property shall be preserved. Number 9 says new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible in the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. Number 10 says that new additions and adjacent or related new construction will be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. From the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines for building site, it's recommended to design a new exterior addition or adjacent new construction, which is what we're talking about here, which is compatible with the historic character of the site and which preserves the historic relationship between a building or buildings, landscape features, and open space. It's also recommended to retain the historic relationship between buildings, landscape features, and open space, and to identify, retain, and preserve buildings and their features, as well as features of the site that are important in defining its overall historic character. Also recommended is designing and constructing a new feature or of a building or site when the historic feature is completely missing. It may be a new design that's compatible with the historic character of the building and site. Not recommended is introducing new construction which is visually incompatible in terms of size, scale, design, materials, color, and texture, or which destroys historic relationships on the site. Also not recommended is removing or radically changing buildings and their features or site features which are important in defining the overall historic character of the building, so that as a result the character is diminished. Also not recommended is introducing a new building or site feature that is out of scale or otherwise inappropriate design. Now we're moving on to thinking about siding. From the guidelines for wood, it's recommended is removing or radically changing. This is not recommended. Not recommended is removing or radically changing wood features which are important in defining the overall historic character of the building, so that as a result the character is diminished. Recommended is repairing wood features by patching, piecing, and consolidating or otherwise reinforcing the wood using recognized preservation methods. May also include the limited replacement in kind or with compatible substitute material of those extensively deteriorated or missing parts of features where there are surviving prototypes. Not recommended is replacing an entire wood feature, such as a cornice or a wall, when repair of the wood and limited replacement are appropriate. Also recommended is identifying, retaining, and preserving buildings and their features, as well as historic features of the site that are important in defining its overall character. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for district or neighborhood setting, not recommended is introducing new construction into historic districts that is visually incompatible or that destroys historic relationships within the setting. For residential accessory structures, it is appropriate to retain the historic relationship between buildings, landscape features, and open spaces, to locate sheds and garages in the rear yard, and to use exterior wall and roof materials that are compatible with historic materials on the main structure and in the neighborhood. It's also appropriate to use a roof shape and pitch that replicates the shape and pitch of the roof of the main structure. It's also appropriate to use windows and doors that are compatible in proportion and style to the main structure and the neighborhood. Not appropriate is introducing new structures or site features that are out of scale with the property or the district or are otherwise inappropriate. And designing a garage or other accessory structure that is taller or larger than the main house. From the Ann Arbor Design Guidelines for wood siding, trim, and architectural details, it's appropriate to repair wood siding, shingles, trim, and architectural features using recognized preservation methods, consolidating, patching, splicing, and reinforcing in order to exactly match the existing historic material appearance. Also appropriate is replacing wood siding that is deteriorated beyond repair with components that exactly match the original in dimension, detail, and texture. Also removing damaged or deteriorated paint to the next sound layer using the gentlest means possible and then repainting. All right, couple of other things that I missed. Let me get up here to on the wood siding, the HDC usually requests that the applicant consolidate as much of the historic wood siding as possible on the front of the building if they can't reuse it on, in this case, 3 sides of the building. And in my, this is the first one. In my updated proposed motion, did I put that in there? Let's see. No, I did not condition the motion on consolidating any salvageable siding on the front of the house. So, and if you could add that, if you were so inclined. I do think, talking about the siding now, I kind of struggled with this because I really dislike when people replace all of their siding because it's easier. Well, we don't let them do that. But in this case, there's a lot of new materials already on this house, which makes me feel a little bit better about it. We've already got 2/3 of the first floor in new siding, and that would look a heck of a lot better if it were replaced to match the historic siding and had that deeper shadow line that you see here. But I do think that keeping enough siding to replace it, even if it's on half of the front, even if it's just below or above, the porch roof, I think that that's important to the historic character of the building. And since one of the goals of the Historic District Commission is to keep materials on the building for as long as possible, I don't think that that's an unreasonable ask. It is more difficult and it takes more time, and you have to be extra careful when you're taking the siding off and trying to put it back up again. But I don't think it's reasonable to try to get them to take it off and put it back on everywhere. It's not going to happen. They're not going to have enough left. And I also think that sheathing the house is really important underneath the siding. So let's see, that was it on the siding. And then on the garage, it's tall. It's really tall, but I'm kind of okay with it. It's very compatible with the house. It's very simple, which is a good thing. This is a historic house with a lot of character on the front. I appreciate that they're not trying to put too much character on the outbuilding in the back. And this does push the limit for height. It can't go any taller than this. But I think that, I don't think that it's unreasonable as long as they take a lot of care in trimming the trees and not jeopardizing any of them. And I think that's it from staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we'll move on to the review committee report. We've got Commissioners Calderon and Kaplan who are on the review committee. Let's hear your report, please.
Sure. So this last visit was primarily focused on siding, as we have been there on previous occasions and kind of gone through the details of the garage and other things. Some of the salient points that stuck in my mind in the conversation with the siding is the contractor had already found a mill nearby that can reproduce in the exact same material, cedar, in the same dimensions, the siding that's on the house. So while in some cases where the historic original wood can't be preserved, the very next best thing, the same wood in the same dimensions, can be replaced on it. Just to my eye, looking at a lot of the wood that's on there is in very, very poor condition. It's already at the point where it would need to be replaced. And the process of removing all of the siding in order to produce sheeting on the structure to make it possible to make it energy efficient is certain to destroy a lot more of it, regardless of how much care is put into it. I've tried to remove siding that's that old, and when you really, really want to keep it, it's still not always that easy. So I thought that the having already gone to the extent of finding the right source for the replacement wood was a good solution, and seeing the structure as it is and the places where you really are, it's like you're looking at a screen room. When you're looking at the inside of the siding, there's a lot of light coming through it already. That's pretty much what I saw. Ben, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree with a lot of the sentiments and thoughts that you had said. We had the opportunity to go inside the house probably 2-3 months ago when it was still just one giant hollow shell. And there's certainly a lot of light coming through the building in certain parts. Some definitely worse than others. The one moment that Jill had shown, yeah, right there, that was by far the worst. That piece of wood at the bottom there is not even joined to the wood member. It's kind of just standing on it, sitting on it. You can just tip it over. That metal to the left there, aluminum that they put on as sheathing to try to block some of the holes in the pass. But yeah, I do agree there's some parts that are worse than others. That's the worst part.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now we'll move on to the applicant presentation. Would the applicant please come forward at this time? Please provide your name and address for the record, and you've got up to 5 minutes to speak about your application. Okay, thank you. Hi.
Thank you. If it's okay, I'll talk about the ADU and then
Sure.
turn over to our contractor to talk about the siding, since he's much more of an expert at that.
Absolutely.
So as we talked about last month, we're interested in putting in this, replacing the garage and putting in an ADU. Again, the interest in increasing density. We often have family members who come into town. We've also been, as mentioned last time, supportive of the community as far as having endowing a student at the School of Nursing and so forth. And we've considered that there may be some time when we make that available to a student there as well. So we tried as best we could to push it to the back to make it, it's only a one-car garage to keep in the same sort of scale, if you will. And for clarification, and I thought maybe we had responded to this before, but the lights are only going to be 1:1 for the windows in the back. So sorry about the mistake on that. So if there are any other questions about the ADU that I can, or garage that I can address,
That's
I'll
fine.
turn over.
Yeah. Why don't you stay there?
Sorry.
We'll just
Okay.
ask you questions now, and then, okay, fine.
I'm sorry.
It doesn't matter. Why don't you, Don, did you state your name and address for the
I'm
record?
sorry.
I didn't know if I...
My apologies.
Yeah.
Don Black, address 526 5th Street is the property we're
Yeah.
going for. Permanent address is 1991 Main Street in Sarasota, Florida.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
I'm Jason Foldenauer. I'm the contractor at 526 5th Street. And I'm really appreciative to have the job to work on this beautiful historic home. I live in one myself from the 1800s. And in my opinion, the siding really needs to be changed just to get, sheeting is the most important part. And I do believe that I tried to reach out to the building department, Mike Lemieux, and I did on Monday, but he hasn't returned my email. I got a hunch that he's going to require some sort of wind bracing. Wood siding is not considered structural in wood for wind shear. So I think he's going to require something. And Jill had mentioned if we put sheeting to the inside, you still have the weather, deteriorating siding getting into the building, which would almost hide it even more to the point where it could rot the structure to the point where, it'd take a long time, but it could collapse, right? If you have water coming into the wall, it could rot the whole wall out right to the foundation. And nobody wants water in their house, and mold and everything else. So the proper way to do it for building code today would be to remove the siding, put up brand new sheeting, and then wrap it in house wrap so it will be more energy efficient. And the siding, we'd be getting it from Mann's Lumber, who are here in town. They took over the Fingerly operation in a sort of smaller way. And they can duplicate the siding. I've already looked into it. It'll be cedar siding. Once it's painted, you'll never know the difference between that and the original siding. We do plan on leaving all the overhangs and the fascias. There is some repair up there, but it's in pretty good shape. So, that part's all going to stay the same. At this point, we would have a chance to really work on the windows and make the trim make it like it was in 1800s. Right now, it's got a mix of several renovations throughout the years of aluminum and stacked up different types of wood, all kinds of different products, and the aluminum's been dented. So we intend to make it look exactly like it was in 1800.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate that. Okay, so let's find out if there's any questions for the applicants here. Yes, Commissioner Ross.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So does the application include the replacement of all the siding, or just the removal of all the siding, even this kind of weird
Even
siding that's underneath
The addition from 2005?
well, on the historic house?
That's what I would like to do, because under the porch, it has been done, I'm guessing around 2005, because you can see the sheeting that they used, and there's a date on there that references, like, I think it's 2005. So they've done that all around the front on the porch, which typically would be the siding that would last the longest, because it's covered.
Right.
For whatever reason, they changed it, but they used new siding, they face nailed it. It looks nothing like what it did in the 1800s. So, if you want us to try to reclaim some siding, we're more than happy to try to do that and, reclaim it and see if it's salvageable, certain pieces. We wouldn't want to put little 3-foot pieces in
Right.
there. We want to do nice full-length pieces. But the place to do it would be on the porch if it comes to that. But the new siding would definitely be an exact match of what it was originally.
So theoretically, on the historic house, the siding will all be uniform and based on the profile, exposure, et cetera, the historic.
Yes, it will
Okay.
match.
And then you're talking about removing the trim around the windows. Is that just throughout on the historic house as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
the windows are, they've been changed. I was just aware when Jill said there was aluminum siding at one time, so that's why they have pieces of aluminum on there, but they chose to never take that off. So it's a mixture of aluminum, wood, and stacked moldings. It looks like they were covering up the original moldings with a new piece of wood, so I'm kind of curious to what's behind there. Usually if somebody puts a piece of wood over a piece of wood, it means they're hiding something. It could be rotten in there, who knows? But it would, we would be able to match, like a house across the street, for instance, has some really nice window trim. And I would imagine it's very similar to what this house looked like when it was built. And we could match that, the headpiece would match
So none
what
of
was
the-
there originally, and we'd have a chance to redo it all to the point where it would be.
I think that sounds nice, but that's what the first time I think we're hearing that, right? Is that not in the
So
proposal?
Jason, that wasn't in this
Yeah.
application.
What's that?
The window trim is not in this application.
Oh, it's not?
No, no.
Oh, I just assumed it was like part of the siding, because it's
Yeah.
the siding.
Yeah, no. It's not part of the application, but yes, we definitely want you to take off that aluminum that we found, wrapping some of the sills and stuff, and restoring that is great. You can't base it on a house across the street, though. You got to
Okay.
figure out what used to be there, or just go with something very plain and similar to what's there now.
Well, it could be totally original underneath there, because they
It could be.
have stacked things
It
on
could be.
top, so. if
And you
we-
may see that the sill's been sheared off, and you may be able to replace that to put a sill back on, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that can just be a staff approval. That'll be easy.
Okay.
So, but you need to know pretty much what you're going to do, so it's fine if you want to get started and take the aluminum off and see what's underneath.
See what's in there, get a
Yeah,
picture
yeah.
or something?
And then just propose, what you want to do to restore it, basically, what it used to look like.
Okay,
Okay.
And it sounds like the entire assembly is going to be like 3/4 of an inch thicker than it is now in most places in the house because there's no sheathing existing. So
yeah, the house will
you
go
have
by
to-
a half inch.
Right, so that has to be, at the window, at the openings is where that has to be accommodated. So
Yeah.
that can be part of, how you're going to do that
Yeah, so
could be
the
part of
original-
the staff approval, please. Yeah.
Gotcha, okay, yeah, the original trim boards are like true, boards used to be thicker back in the day. Like when they called it a 1-by, it was actually 1 inch.
Right.
You know, today you buy 3/4. And that's what somebody's put over it, was pieces of 3/4. We would be ordering authentic, you know.
So you would do
milled lumber.
1 inch thick
Yes.
trim, so it has the proper
Yeah.
profile against
Yes.
the siding. That sounds great. Okay, did that answer enough of your question? Or were you concerned about putting, like, there's the addition, there's the historic part, and then there's the addition. If you came in with a proposal for an addition to this house, we would ask that the siding profile or something with the siding be changed. You know, there should be some differentiating line between historic and non-historic. So what you're proposing here is a little different, because what you're saying is now the entire house is going to get wrapped so that it's going to kind of look like it all was the historic
same
house.
time,
And
yeah.
and that's a bit tricky. I think we're kind of
I guess I didn't
dealing
understand.
with that a little bit.
Okay, I guess I didn't understand that. So,
Yeah.
so I thought that, because, I mean,
No?
I see the email, so
Oh,
yeah, I thought it was
okay,
just.
so I was.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
this is good. We're a little confused. So the,
'cause I don't,
are you wrapping is all of the siding and the entire house going away, or just some of the
We're going to
siding?
make sure it's wrapped. I don't know. It was done in 2005.
Right, so
when they
the
put that on there.
addition, you might not touch the addition.
We are, because there's some window changes back there.
What
So
about
we
the
have to-
siding? The
we have
siding
to-
and trim?
That wasn't done very well either.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
cement, it's cement back there,
Yep.
and they didn't paint the edges when they put it together.
So
It's
it's,
swelling up,
yeah,
so,
okay.
and with
So
the
you would
window
replace that with cedar, or you would replace that with cement?
I mean, my intention, and it's up to the homeowner,
Yeah.
obviously, at the end, but I would not want a house with a mixture of
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
cement and wood, and especially if it's from the 1800s, I would want it all to be cedar lap siding, the original, what it was built with. And I understand it could be conflicting to tell the difference between the addition and the original house, but we could do something to
Yes.
definitely make it look like it's a different home from front to back.
That's your point earlier.
Yeah.
If you had a
Closer to
different,
the microphone.
if you had a different shadow
Yeah,
of, you know, to the depth of, I mean, would that,
that's one way to do it. So now, but I guess I'm just going to ask is, what is the proposal that we should be considering tonight? I think it sounded like the proposal that staff was considering is just changing the historic siding to
Yeah.
this, right? So,
Now that I look at the email again, it's a little ambiguous.
okay.
But
Yeah, I was
if you
gonna
want to
say,
do the
I
whole
don't-
house, if you think you might need to do the whole house, I think that's okay. But if you can, like Donna's saying, differentiate, you've got to replicate the historic wood siding on the front as part of the proposal. But if you can put thinner siding on the back half or slightly.
Bigger exposure.
Bigger
Yeah.
exposure.
Could do that.
Or something.
Or smaller exposure.
It's not perfect, unfortunately, because it was, the addition was sort of seamlessly integrated into the historic house. But I think it would be better than no differentiation at all.
Yeah, because the house wrap, you know, I believe it's going to be required because we're changing windows in the 2005 edition, so I believe the building inspector he's going to want that. You don't think so?
Well, I don't think so, but you'll find out when you do that, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if you take the siding off, for sure, but if
yeah,
you don't
which
take
we
the
have
siding.
to put, there's some window changes
Yeah,
in the
okay.
addition part.
just
so.
to this specific,
Yeah.
this older window on the side here over the air conditioner condenser,
Yeah,
that's no longer there. So we have to do something about the siding anyway, because that was, you know, that was in the original
Yeah.
approval 4 months ago or whatever.
Sure.
to, you know,
That's
for
right.
Some of those changes.
So rather than piece in, you know, the window, we want to redo that whole side so that
Understood.
it looks professional and done properly.
okay, so we're getting into sort of like designing the project here right now, which is really what we don't want to do up here, unfortunately. So we want to kind of stop that, but we just did need to clarify exactly what you were asking for tonight, and has that been clarified?
Yeah,
Okay, maybe you could restate it
well,
so we know what we're can hear it from you.
So, commissioners, is anyone intending to add to the motion that original historic siding should be used under the first floor porch to the extent that it can be salvaged?
Yeah, I think there's
Or-
almost no teeth in that sentence if you say should be and to the extent
Well,
of, so,
I mean,
you
we
know,
could say
there's,
will
we could
be.
ask nicely, and that would be the same, right? I mean,
Or you can say will
We
be,
can,
Right.
yeah.
But also,
But
if there's
again,
none left,
that's-
then
if
there's
you-
none
if-
left,
if-
yeah.
Yeah,
You with me? Yeah.
okay. So no one is jumping on that, I don't think.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So
We would
then-
like that, yes.
I mean, I guess I'm just a little, so is the scope of the work related to the lap siding captured in that email? Is that, or is there, because there's nothing that says that the new siding will match the historic and blah, blah, blah. There's no, it's just like,
Well,
add new siding.
Yeah.
That's
It's in
where
the
I'm
motion,
concerned.
probably.
It is in the
Yeah.
motion,
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask a sort of procedural
Yeah.
question?
yeah.
So the reason this is not staff approved is you were concerned about approving removal of all the historic siding.
Yes.
So if we remove that concern, because we don't think there's any way to sort of enforce anything else, then does it revert to staff approval?
For the future, yes.
Well, I'm thinking because now you're thinking about a different design for the non-historic portion of the building. So they could come back, we could say it's okay to remove all the historic siding. They could come back to you with a more concrete
Oh, yeah.
design of
That could be
what's
staff
going to be on
approved.
the historic part and what's going to be on the non-historic part.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, because I could already approve something different on the non-historic part, so, yes, yes. I just need, staff needs the commission's blessing to take off all of the historic siding.
Got it.
And
Right.
replace it with
That makes
matching.
sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. No, we still have some questions for you, I think. But that, just now we know what the proposal is. And that was a little bit of, yeah, just like insider talk about how we can do this. Okay. So let's stay on the siding. Is there someone, okay, is there another question for the applicant specific to the siding? We can discuss it more. We can discuss it more.
I think I
but-
understand what's.
Yeah, okay, good.
I see the motion up here in the front end of the, okay.
Okay, so nothing more on the siding, at least for the moment, on the applicant. And then the other proposal on the table is for the ADU. And I am just trying to get to,
There's a drawing that I'm circulating
Oh, yeah.
here.
Okay,
That was provided by the contractor.
yeah.
It is, he did scale it.
Okay,
But you don't get the,
so the
Yeah.
eave height is almost identical or not? No, it's slightly lower, it looks like? Oh, yeah, I just had to lift up, okay. Yeah, it's lower and the ridge height is lower, okay.
Pull the string and it
You
just comes
mentioned
out.
that the house is
Yes,
25 feet tall to the ridge, right? Is that what you said in the staff report?
Well, that's what the slide said.
I appreciate that zoning requires like the midpoint of the gable, but for us, really what we're concerned about is the ridge height lower than the ridge height, and then also the eave heights. So the midpoint of the gable, I know that's like the
I found it
key
confusing
for
myself.
zoning, but for us, it's not really the key number. But I did it looks like it's around, the ridge is around 22 and a half based on the 612 roof, and it looks like you did the 612 roof to match.
Mess house.
Yeah, so just for the record there, matching that, you could have gone to like a 312, it would have not matched, but the ridge would have been lower. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think we appreciate like a little bit higher ridge, but it's more compatible. And you got to get 2 8-foot tall, I think that, I get why you did it. And I think just seeing this is very helpful. I know it's not going to look like that. Have you seen that? You got to imagine that the one on the right is way in the backyard, and the one on the left is right at the sidewalk.
If you were
Pass
going
that
on a
to
big
Sean.
sky lift from the street, that's what it would look like.
Yeah, right.
Perspective
Yes,
of
from
stand.
1,000 feet away, that's what it's going to look like, yeah. Okay, so that was just my question, and I think you answered it with that drawing. That was my question on the ADU. Are there any other questions for the applicant on the ADU? Okay, thank you both. We might call you back up, but for now, we've got to do the public hearing. So we'll open the public hearing for this item. It's at 526 Fifth Street. And this is an opportunity for a person to speak for up to 3 minutes about this application. And I'm not seeing anyone at the podium. Doesn't look like we have anyone online. So the public hearing for this is now closed. And I will ask, is there a commissioner who would like to make a motion on this item? And it sounds like there might be a couple motions, but Commissioner Ross, please.
Yeah, I'll start with the citing.
Yeah.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 526 Fifth Street, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to remove the wood siding and trim, re-insulate and install sheathing, and replace the siding with cedar siding that matches all dimensions, should I say, of the original?
Yes, please.
All dimensions of the original historic wood siding, and to remove a non-contributing garage and construct a new garage with a second floor accessory dwelling unit as proposed. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building, and the surrounding area meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 259 and 10, and the guidelines for building site, district, or neighborhood setting, and wood, and the Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for residential accessory structures and wood siding, trim, and architectural details.
Does someone support that?
Second.
Great. That is the motion by Commissioner Ross and seconded by Commissioner Kaplan. So is there any discussion on the motion? We could start with the siding. How about?
Yeah, can we amend the motion so that when we say to re-insulate and install sheathing and replace the siding with a siding plan approved by staff?
Place a siding with cedar siding that matches all dimensions of the original historic wood siding.
We'll take out the description because now we've talked about the historic siding, the siding on the historic building not matching the siding on the, we
Yeah.
don't have the final siding plan is my understanding.
Could we leave it with Commissioner Ross's amendment and just add a couple more words? So it says, replace the siding with cedar siding that matches all dimensions of the original historic wood siding on the historic portion of the house.
Okay,
On the historic.
and there's no further review needed on the non-historic siding?
House.
That'll just be a different application and staff approved.
I could say on the historic portion of the house, with staff approval required for the non-historic siding on this non-historic part of the house. I'm making this much longer than I thought.
And the window trim could be part of that.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. And I'll read it back to you in just a minute.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Ross, tell us if this is okay. Let's see, remove the wood siding and trim, re-insulate and install sheathing, and replace the siding with cedar siding that matches all dimensions of the original historic wood siding on the historic portion of the house, and with staff approval required for the siding on the non-historic portion of the house, along with window trim dimensions.
So, quick question.
Yeah.
Should there be specific language around if a situation that when the aluminum coil stock or whatever is removed from the window trim, and if there's original window trim remaining, that it should be kept? And if not, then the new trim should be, the design should be based on the original, or is
I
it?
think we'll just vet that in the staff review, you know?
Okay.
We'll have them give us photos of, you know, the windows that need trim changes, and the portions that are historic need to remain as much as possible, but if they can't be, then what they're going to replace them with. I mean, it's
Okay.
sort of standard.
Also, it's,
Okay.
it's all got to come off because they're adding 3/4 of an inch to the
Yep.
siding. So if you leave the historic trim there, it's going
It's
to
gonna
look.
look, yeah, it's gonna be pushed.
Yeah, so,
Okay, yeah, putting it in staff's hands, understanding what we're looking for, yeah. Okay. Let's roll with that.
okay, so that was amended, and do we have to approve that amendment, or everyone just seems good with it? So we just are okay?
Just vote.
The motion is fine because the person who made the motion,
Is okay
the
with-
commissioner is okay with it? Okay, I
Yep,
get it.
yep, yep.
Okay. So then let's discuss. Let's have more discussion about the siding. Does anyone have any further comments there? I think that I will just, please chime in if you do. I think that what we've heard is, or, you know, what we've discussed is that we agree that the siding should be replaced. I think that we didn't put it in the motion, but we all would be behind an effort, and a great effort to save as much of the big pieces that you can. And I think we all probably agree with you, Jason, that the place to do that is below the porch first, and then second, if there's more, would be above the porch. I think you're right on there, and I think we all agree with that. Any comments or on the siding? Okay. So then on the ADU, it's a very simple design. It seems to meet the standards very well, but for the question of, is it too big? It seems like this is how big these ADUs are. They're all about this size, if not bigger. It's slightly bigger than it could be because of the request to match the roof slope, which is something to note. And I think really the question comes down to, is the site deep enough really to support this? Is it far enough away from the house? So any comments or any comments about the ADU? Are we all in agreement that that's kind of where we are? Do you have any comments, Commissioner Ross?
No, I'm more jazzed up about the siding
Yeah.
being removed. Okay.
Okay.
It's fine to me.
Do you have any comments about the siding? Okay. I estimated that between the ADU and the house, there'd be about 17 feet, if the drawing is done to scale. So put that on the record too. Okay. And there's no muttons in the ADU. Okay. All right. Let's vote, seeing as there's no more comments. So all those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. Please note that you must receive all required permits from the city before beginning your project. It sounds like you'll be talking to the building administrators over there, and so you'll know all about that. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don, Sherry, Jason, appreciate it. Yep. Okay. Let's move on to new business. That's hearings F hearings, and the first hearing has been postponed. It's 553 South 7th Street, but we're just going to do a public hearing for that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if anyone is here for the public hearing for 553 South 7th Street, the public hearing is open, and no one's approaching the podium, and I don't think we have anyone online, so now we will close the public hearing. We did our legal duty there for F1, and we'll move on to F2, 618 South First Street. The staff report, please.
Per Polk directories, this 1.5-story craftsman home was first occupied in 1916. Features shingled front and south side gables with lap siding, which is currently aluminum, on the first story and in the rear gable. In 2007, staff approved an application to replace plywood guardrails on the front porch with the current spindled guardrails. There is a 1990 photo at the end of the staff report to replace the porch ceiling and to install new porch decking and new column bases. This house is on the west side of South First Street between West Madison and West Mosley Street, and the applicant is seeking HDC approval to remove a rear door, replace it with a window, and to remove a pair of vinyl windows in original openings on the rear elevation and replace them with French doors. Also to install 2 vents on the rear elevation and 1 on the south elevation. Mariana, would you do me a favor and promote Marco into the meeting? Thank you. The applicant is joining us via Zoom. And this is the back of the house. There's this little covered stoop here that is not original to the house. It does not show up on the 31 or 48 Sanborn fire insurance maps. So this was a later addition. It's a little bit funky here with the porch bases are concrete blocks, which means they will probably never rot, which is good. But this is proposed to just stay there and just be a little covered porch, good place to store your bike or your lawnmower or whatever. Going around, the pair of windows I mentioned have vinyl replacement windows in them now. It is an original window opening. And the back door opening is presumed to be original, though it also has a replacement door currently. A couple photos on the rear and the side of where the vents would go. These are all appropriate and would be staff approved. It's just that they were, he was applying for this anyway, so might as well include them on this application. Drawings, you can see here that right now there's a front door, a side door, and a rear door on the house. This is a drawing of the rear elevation as it is now with dimensions of the pair of windows and of the door. And the proposed is to, let me see if I can zoom in here. Yeah. Proposed is to install a 60 by 80 inch pair of French doors and remove that door and install a 36 by 32 inch window. The application didn't indicate what the window materials would be, but but in the motion it does specify that they should be wood or wood clad wood rather. On the, let's see, the 2 vents are also going on the back, just outside of where that little covered porch is. And then on the, let's see, this would be the south side elevation, there's a new vent up near the eave. There's another drawing that was an earlier drawing. I think that this one, come on. Sorry, it doesn't want to, oh, maybe because I'm zoomed in. Woo. Okay, that was too far.
Too far out.
And that's the wrong one. Sorry. Okay, here we are back again. This was an earlier drawing. It's the things are the same. This one indicates a sliding door, but it was actually a pair of French doors that they landed on. But then they gave us new drawings that were a little bit clearer. This is the back of the house. You can see the door's not even centered or anything underneath this little porch. So it's really very few character defining features here on the back. The work will be completely invisible from the street. It's got these nice little corner returns, but this is just all siding, no shingles or anything. As you can see from the sides, The work won't be visible. It's a pretty cute little craftsman house, though. And from the Secretary of Interior Standards, I already read to you two. Number 5 says distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize a property shall be preserved. And I've read number 9 to you as well. From the guidelines for windows, it's not recommended to change the number, location, size, or glazing pattern of windows through cutting new openings, blocking windows, and installing replacement sash which do not fit the historic window opening, or removing or radically changing windows which are important in defining the historic character of the buildings, that as a result the character is diminished. Staff doesn't believe that these proposed changes will diminish the character of the building. From entrances and porches, it is recommended designing and installing additional entrances when required for the new use in the manner that preserves the historic character of the building, i.e. limiting such alteration to non-character defining elevations. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for porches, it's appropriate to install a new porch and entrance on secondary elevations. May be appropriate if it does not diminish the building's architectural character and the design and materials are compatible with the building and the site. This is a really straightforward application. I don't have much else to say about it, though staff does support it. No character defining features would be lost, and it's not visible from the street. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we'll move on to the review committee report. Commissioners Calderon and Kaplan, let's hear your report.
I really can't add anything. That was a complete report of it from Jill. I think that was everything that needs to be said, and nothing else sticks out as necessary to add.
I would agree.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now we'll get the applicant presentation. It sounds like we've got Marco calling in on Zoom. And so would the applicant please unmute your microphone, turn on your video, please, and provide your name and address for the record. You have up to 5 minutes to speak about your application and respond to the staff and review committee.
Before you get started, I just want to note that in the application, it said they would match the historic trim dimensions, but we had a conversation about that, and Marco proposed using 4-inch trim, and that 4-inch wood trim is included in the motion.
Very good.
So the trim is distinguished. All right, thank you. Marco, you can go ahead.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi there.
Thank you all for considering this application. I'm not sure if I have video. I don't see a button for it.
We can hear you loud and clear. Yeah, if you find the video button, that'd be great, but if not, we'll just, we'll talk like this.
Cool. Yeah, I'm not seeing a way to turn on video, so well, why don't we stick with this? But yeah, I'm Marco Fazo of 618 South First Street, and I appreciate you all considering. I don't really have anything to add other than what has already been excellently presented by Jill. So thank you for that. But yeah, I'm not really sure if there's something else I should be saying. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
I think that sounds good. Well, I'll just find out if there's any questions, if you just hold on for a second, and I'll ask the commission right now. Any questions for Marco? A lot of heads shaking. Okay, so Marco, we don't have any questions for you at the moment. Just hold on, though, and we'll run through the procedure, okay?
Sounds good.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so now we'll do the public hearing. We'll open the public hearing for this item. It is 618 South First Street. No one approaching the podium, and we don't have anyone online. So now we'll close the public hearing for this item. And we'll go to a motion. So is there a commissioner who would like to make a motion on this item?
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 502 East Ann Street. a contributing property.
Wait, that's not
Oh,
right,
whoops,
is it?
sorry. I just moved a page.
Yeah, 618.
Page 45.
Where did I put it? Someone else may have to do this. I just. Whoops. Where did I just put that?
I can do it. Well,
Do you have it? Looks like he's got it. Not a problem.
No, I don't actually.
Okay, well, sounds like,
actually, I'm still waiting for my report to download.
yeah. Does anyone else have
Yeah, I
the,
have it.
would like to make a motion somewhere? Just,
I
sounds
move-
good.
You want me to?
Yes, please.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 618 South First Street, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to install 3 vents, remove a rear door and replace it with a window, remove a pair of vinyl windows in original openings and replace them with French doors, and use 4-inch wood trim for both. The proposed work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2, 5, and 9, and the guidelines for windows, accessibility, and entries and porches, as well as the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines, particularly as they pertain to residential porches.
Second.
Great. That was moved by Commissioner Fortner and supported by Commissioner Calderon. So I think that, yeah, this is straightforward. It's a little unusual because we've got a window becoming a door and a door becoming a window. The window will now be under a roof, like the window will be at the porch. The door will just be out there. And I did have a question for Marco before we get to discussion. Marco, are you there?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just curious, you'll have this beautiful double door there. You know, that will, if you open those doors and step out of them, it seems like it's going to be a 30-inch drop or something like that, a couple feet down. Are you planning on, is there anything else you can tell us about plans for the doors, or is this really everything?
Good question. I think, you know, down the line, we might want to extend that cement area so that there's not as much of a drop. I think we've also talked about extending that kind of awning roof to be over the door as well, but nothing is planned at the moment, and we would go through separate approvals for those.
Understood. Okay. Well, that I guess makes the story a little more clear in our heads, at least, as to, you know, where we're going with this. So thanks for that clarification. I did see, staff, was there a question about what the window materials were? It says clad wood, I believe. We just don't know if it's aluminum clad, or I think it would be, just saying clad wood seems like enough information, right? Okay, I have in my notes that you had that question, but okay, sounds good. Okay, so now, commissioners, is there any discussion on this, or hearing that we all seem okay, or, okay, all right. Well, then let's just move to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. So thank you for joining us, Marco.
Thank you.
Take care.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Okay. So now we're moving along to F3. That's 502 East Ann Street. So we'll have the staff report from Mariana whenever you're ready, please. Thank you.
All right. This is 502 East Ann Street, and we are another window application, and this one is another rear window application, actually. So this house was built sometime between 1894 and 1897 based on city directories. It is a 2.5-story gable fronter with wood siding and a full-width covered front porch. A widow, Adeline B. Lathrop, lived at the house from at least 1897 until 1914 when another widow moved into the house. In 1930, a student is listed at the house, and it appears that after that, the house was occupied by at least 2 families at a time. In terms of previous applications, in 2008, a previous owner submitted an application to the Historic District Commission to replace some windows on the first story on the street. After the work was completed, that application was denied, and then the work was ordered to be reversed. And then that same year, that previous owner also removed a chimney on the house. We are located on the south side of East Ann Street between Division and State. And as I said, the applicant is seeking HDC approval to remove one third-floor rear window, increase the opening size, and then install a new window for egress purposes. So this is the front of the house. And then these are some applicant photos of, again, the front and then the rear of the house. The window that we're talking about is this small third-story one. And the applicant is proposing to remove it. You can see the dashed line, the outline of the existing window, and then the proposed new one, which is in the enlarged opening. The window that is there, the trim is historic. It's wood trim. Unclear from the application, but when we talked with the applicant at the review committee visit, it appears that it's assumed that the window is also original. The applicant, or the owner, I guess, said that it was a wood window in there. Just a close-up. And then you can see this is the existing floor plan. This is the rear of the house where the window would be removed, and then size increased, and then new window put in. And here are some photos from the review committee. Again, we're at the rear of the house. That's the window. All right, Jill has already read standard 2 and 5 and 9. So I'll just, a few more. For building site, it is recommended from the Secretary of the Interior, it's recommended to identify, retain, and preserve buildings and their features, as well as features of the site that are important in defining overall historic character. It's not recommended to introduce new construction onto the building site that is visually incompatible in terms of size, scale, design, materials, color, or texture, or which destroys the historic relationships on the site. It's also not recommended to remove or radically change buildings and their features or site features which are important in the overall historic character. For windows, it is recommended to design and install additional windows on rear or other non-character defining elevations if required by the new use. It's also recommended to design, I think that's the same one. It's not recommended to introduce a new design that is incompatible with the historic character of the building for windows, or to remove a character-defining window. It's also not recommended to install new windows that are incompatible with the building's historic appearance. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines, it is appropriate to retain and maintain windows in good condition. It's not appropriate to change the number, location, size, or glazing pattern of windows by cutting new openings, blocking in, or installing replacement sash, which does not fit the historic opening. It's also not appropriate to remove or radically change a window that is important in the overall historic character of the property. All right, so pretty simple, straightforward application. Just a couple of other things that were not included in the application. I'll go back. So we know that the window is going to be removed, but We did not get in the application the materials for the new window. We did talk about it with the owner on site, and there is a condition included in the motion that the new window should be wood or clad wood. Similarly, we didn't get too much detail on the trim. It does say trim to match existing on the drawings. We did talk to the owner again on site, and there is also a condition in there that the new trim should be wood, and it should be slightly differentiated from the historic trim. So the motion also includes a condition that the trim dimensions are submitted to staff prior to approval, prior to building permit approval. The new window, bigger, it'll be approximately 3 feet by 5 feet. It's for egress, and the location at the rear of the house is appropriate and will be minimally visible. And I think that's pretty much it. Everything else is just included in the motion so that we can get some of those details that we did talk about on site, but that weren't actually included in the application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now let's hear from the review committee.
Yeah, again, I mean, much like the last one, pretty straightforward project. Not too much more to add.
Yeah, I just say it is a change in a window, but it's the rear of the house and not visible in any way from the street.
Thank you both for that. Now we'll have the applicant presentation. So would the applicant, I assume we've got an applicant on Zoom?
Nope.
Okay, do we have an applicant here? I didn't think so. Okay, so I will continue without the applicant presentation. Were we expecting the applicant when you talked on Thursday?
I think he was going to be
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's just move ahead. We'll just go right to the public hearing then. And so we'll open the public hearing for this item. It's 502 East Ann Street. And I don't think there's anyone here for the public hearing. Doesn't look like it, and it doesn't look like there's anyone online. So we will close the public hearing for this item and move on to the motion. And I would ask is there a commissioner who would like to make a motion, possibly Commissioner Kaplan?
I'll give it a try.
You've got it.
Sure, yeah.
you.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 502 East Ann Street, a contributing property in the Division Street Historic District, to remove a third-floor rear window, enlarge the opening, and install a replacement window on the conditions that, 1, the replacement window is wood or clad wood, and 2, the new trim is wood and slightly differentiated from the historic trim, and the trim dimensions are submitted to staff prior to building permit approval. As conditioned, the work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2, 5, and 9, and the guidelines for building site and windows, as well as the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for windows.
Second.
Very good. That was moved by Commissioner Kaplan and supported by Commissioner Ross. Is there any discussion on the motion? I had a question about the trim, but that was resolved on site, it sounds like, and entered into the motion already by staff, so I really appreciate that. Thank you. And it sounds like everyone just agrees this is a really simple application for egress purposes. So let's just go right to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 Yes. All those opposed, say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. Okay, so now we're moving right along here to F4. It's 514 West Washington Street. And Mariana, whenever you're ready, the staff report, please.
Yeah. So this two-story gable-fronted home first appeared on the 1925 Sanborn map as the house of Henry G. Grau. And according to maps and aerials, the house remained largely unchanged throughout the period of significance. On the Sanborn maps, they show that the house originally featured a full-width front porch. At some point, that front porch was removed and replaced with a half-width version, and there is a photo, a 2008 photo at the end of the staff report that shows that not full-width front porch. But luckily, at some point, the front porch, or luckily, in 2010, it was restored to an appropriate full-width front porch. There is also a one-story rear addition that was constructed after the period of significance, though its exact construction date is unknown. There was a building permit submitted in 1968 for roof repairs over an existing condition, so assuming that that rear addition was built sometime between 1948, where it was not shown on that last Sanborn map, and then 1968 when that building permit was submitted. So after the period of significance, somewhere mid-1900s. There is a garage on the northwest corner of the parcel. Historically, this was a location of an accessory structure, but unclear right now if that is the current garage or whether the current garage is the original structure. The site is located on the north side of West Washington Street, west of 3rd Street, south of West Huron, and east of Murray Avenue. And the applicant is seeking HDC approval to construct a rear second-story addition above that existing rear one-story non-contributing addition. So here we have the front of the house. This is the west side here on the left, east side on the right. It's another view of that east side. You can see, so this is the original house, and then this is that one-story rear addition back there. And this proposed addition is going to be located somewhere where the cursor is right now. I don't know if you can see that. Here's another view of that rear addition. And then here's that original gable, and then there's going to be that proposed addition right on top of here and below the historic gable roof. And here we have a lovely rendering. So rear of the house as it exists now, just that one-story addition with that flat roof. And then here you can see this little gable, 118 square feet. And you can see here from the plan, so you have the existing house, you have that rear addition, and then in yellow is the proposed second floor addition that we are discussing tonight. It is 9 feet in length and 14 feet 10 inches in width. So floor plans, again, existing first floor plan. And then we have the second floor plan, and then you can see that flat roof, and then this addition here. This is some demo. So we will be, as part of the demolition, there exists here a window that is presumed to be a historic window, and then a door here that is likely not historic because this addition did not exist. Roof plan, so you can see new gable right here. Here's some elevation drawings just to kind of help so you can see that this new proposed addition, the gable is underneath the historic gable, but since it's slightly offset, you know, at the maximum, I think it's about 4 feet, it gets a little bit closer where it's offset. I have materials on the drawings, but I'll go through that when I go through my notes. You can see rear of the house, it is inset, so it won't be visible from the right-of-way. Some more existing and then proposed. And then here's just an elevation view of that door and window that exist on the second floor that will be removed as part of this construction. So there will be new windows on the addition. There's going to be 2 right on the rear. So here's just some of the applicant's photos of the existing windows and then the new windows. So you'll have the 3/1. So to kind of match, but the trim will be differentiated and they will be clad wood. Some more renderings. And then the back view. And here are some applicant photos of the house. And then this is just a better photo view of what is there right now. That door and that window. And again, will be inset at both of the corners of the historic house. All right. We read 2. We read 9. We read 10. From the Secretary of the Interior for the additions, it is recommended to construct a new addition so that there is the least possible loss of historic materials and so that character-defining features are not obscured, damaged, or destroyed. It's also recommended to locate the attached exterior addition at the rear or on an inconspicuous side of a historic building and limit its size and scale in relationship to the historic, and to design new additions in a manner that makes it clear what is historic and what is new. It's not recommended to attach a new addition so that character-defining features are obscured, damaged, or destroyed. Also not recommended to duplicate the exact form, material, style, and detailing of the historic buildings so that new addition does not appear to be part of the historic building. Not recommended to design a new addition so that its size and scale are out of proportion with the historic building. It's recommended to, for building site, recommended to identify, retain, and preserve buildings and their features, as well as features of the site that are important in defining overall historic character. Not recommended to remove or radically change buildings and their features, especially those that are important in defining overall historic character. For roofs, it is recommended to identify, retain, and preserve roofs and their functional and decorative features that are important in defining the overall historic character of the building. And not recommended to radically change, damage, or destroy roofs, which are important and character defining. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for all additions, appropriate to place a new addition on a non-character defining or inconspicuous elevation and to limit the size and scale of the addition in relationship to the historic property. Also recommended to design a new addition in a manner that makes it clear what is historic and what is new. Also appropriate to limit the size and scale of that addition. And not appropriate to design an addition that appears older or the same age as the original building. And then last one for roofs, it's appropriate to retain and maintain original historic roofing. So just a few more notes. I'll go back to the pictures. Stop on a rendering. That's a good one. So currently the house has cement board siding, wood trim, and then a gable roof with asphalt shingles. There's a brick chimney there, and most of the windows that exist on the historic building do appear to be historic. And the post-1945 one-story rear addition has a mix of windows and has a flat rubber roof. That rubber roof will be replaced as part of the construction, replaced in kind. So this is 118 square feet with a gable roof. It's going to be rectangular in shape and inset on both sides and then lower than the roof. Like I said, it's 11 feet in height from the top of the first story. And the angle of the gable does match the angle of the historic roof gable. For materials on the addition, the siding will be 6-inch horizontal lap cement board, and the gable roof will have asphalt the P's and H's and S's. Asphalt shingles, cement board soffits, and burl fascia. The north elevation of the proposed addition will have those 3/1 clad wood windows that I showed, and the caps and casing will be boral. The new window casing will be 4 inches wide, so slightly narrower than the historic, which is 4.5 inches. So the addition, second story over that non-contributing one-story addition, it's not going to be visible from the right-of-way. There's going to be minimal impact on the historic house since the addition is going to be over that 1945 rear addition. All really is going to be that what is removed of the existing window and door there. But like I said, the wood door is not in a historic location. And according to the drawings, the house has approximately a floor area of approximately 1,450 square feet, of which approximately 1,081 were built before 1945. So with the construction of this second-story addition, that will represent a total 45% increase, so under that 50% in the total post-1944 floor area, and there will be no change in footprint because this is a second-story addition. So overall, the addition is appropriately sized, simple in design, and not visible from the right-of-way with minimal impact on the historic structure, so staff does recommend approval. Thanks.
Thank you. Now we'll please have the review committee report.
Sure. Yeah, I found it to be a very small and discrete project. The rear addition is deep and wide and tall enough where going to the backyard there's a bit of a slope. It's even harder to see the door and the window in the first place unless you're to the far end of the fence line. I do appreciate also that the addition is below the existing roof line.
Yeah, I echo that. I think that the footprint of the old addition that's already there serves to sort of really mask from the pedestrian level at grade. It will be, this won't be obvious even when you're standing in the backyard because the wall of the old addition is right there, and this is set back from that even. From the street or any other public view, it's not visible at all. And I actually, in my opinion, I think that the new addition helps contextualize the old addition and tie it to the house better. I think it's a great thing.
Great point. Thank you. Thank you both. Okay, so now we'll move on to the applicant presentation. Would the applicant please come forward at this time? Please provide your name and address for the record. You have up to 5 minutes to speak on what you've heard so far. Thank you.
My name is Catherine Fillmore. I represent the builder, not the owner. My home address is 592 Lakeview,
Yeah.
Ann Arbor.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the homeowner came to us. They're looking to create a better bedroom situation for their young daughter, who is, I believe, about 7 years old. This room with that door out onto the roof with no railing on it feels unsafe as it is. So the idea is so they have her in a middle room, which is a very tiny room, and with a real minimal closet. And so the idea is to give her a safer room with a proper egress, not a door, but windows, and area where she can have a closet, a bed, and a little play area for herself. So the other thing I guess I can say is we did shift this addition. You may know we are only inset 8 inches on that east side rather than the 18 inches, and that is for 2 main reasons. One is to preserve the historic window, the one remaining historic window. If we shifted this in the 18 inches that were required, we would have had to demo that other historic window, and we didn't want to do that. And also, where the walls of the new addition align nicely with the structure below it, so we're going to be able to preserve more of the interior structure below it. Even though it's, post 1945, it helps with the project in general to keep as much of it as intact as possible. So.
Sounds good. Thank you, Catherine. Are there any questions for the applicant and the commission? Okay, thank you very much. In that case, we'll move on to the public hearing. So the public hearing is now open for this item. It's 514 West Washington Street. I don't see anyone approaching the podium here. Do we have anyone online? There's no one online, so that's it for the public hearing.
I will say that
what's going on?
The owner is on Zoom too, so if we have questions for the owner, they're online.
Okay. Well, does the owner want to?
Her name is Julie.
Hi, Julie. if you'd like to make any comments, now would be the time to do it. If not, that's totally okay also.
No, I don't have any comments, just thanks, Catherine. So
Great.
thank you all.
Well, thanks for being here. Appreciate hearing from you, but we'll move on. So the public hearing portion, that's closed, so we'll move on to making a motion. So is there a commissioner who would like to make a motion on this item? Thank you.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 514 West Washington Street, a contributing property in the All West Side Historic District, to construct a second-story addition on the rear. As proposed, the work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular, standards 2, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for additions, building site, and roofs. The Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for additions and roofs.
Second.
Great. That was moved by Commissioner Kaplan and seconded by Commissioner Calderon. Is there any discussion on the motion? Yeah, I'm not seeing any discussion. I think that it's because this is a very simple project, and also the application, is very clear, so we know exactly what's going on here. So we really appreciate that, both of those things. And seeing no questions or comments, we're going to go right to a vote. So all those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application's been approved. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Well, that was it for hearings. So everyone just take a deep breath because we've got some new business here. We're still going through the design guidelines, so that's what we're going to do right now.
Well, this is the last chapter for now, so.
Is that really? Yay.
For now.
For now.
For now.
Why do you say for now?
You never know what's going to happen.
You never know.
We might come back, we might
Okay.
not,
Okay.
but
All right.
I don't,
We will come back.
We
with
will
a
come back.
revised Draft.
but I don't want to get any hopes up that we're done forever, so. I'll share my screen. All right, so Chapter 7, the design guidelines for new construction. I think that generally the biggest thing that I think we have to think about is the references to the downtown design guidelines. So those are still apply. The design review board was recently eliminated, so now staff will be doing that for all downtown projects. Staff will be referring to the downtown design guidelines. So they are relevant, but obviously the historic district design guidelines take precedent over the downtown. So just making sure that the language in here is clear, kind of what applies when, and with the character overlay district, those areas too, making it clear how all of these interact. That historic district is number one, and that you can refer to the other for the characters, and the downtown design guidelines for other things. So I think that's just kind of a general making sure that that language is clear.
Can I just ask a question there? So I was kind of familiar with the process when there was the board, where like a developer would go to the board and then there'd be maybe recommendations or something like that based on these guidelines. So can you just briefly, what's the new process now that there's no board?
So that hasn't been done yet, so there might be some things that change, but the intention is now that staff will include that as part of their final staff report when it goes to planning commission or council or whoever is the final approving body, that staff will make those references, and we'll talk to the developer along the way about how how the design guidelines, downtown design guidelines may help their
Yeah,
project.
got it. Because a developer would have to go through planning commission possibly for this development. So if they do, there's staff there, the staff can refer to this document. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so I'll just start scrolling through. I think generally kind of similar things for cleaning up language and cleaning up pictures.
While we're asking general questions about the design guidelines, I did have another one. Does it get updated very often, or is it what you would expect where it doesn't?
The downtown ones?
Yes.
I don't think they've been updated since they were
Okay.
published.
Okay. I was concerned that we were going to be referencing a document that maybe was changing, but then my assumption was that it's probably not.
Yeah, and I don't believe there are any plans to update them,
Yeah.
at least right now.
Very good, okay.
Okay, so general principles, just kind of general things to be thinking about when you're thinking about new construction. And generally, this chapter focuses on commercial and downtown areas, hence the downtown design guideline focus. All right, guidelines for all new construction. Should it be specifically stated that it should not be too close or looming over any contributing buildings, or is it implied already? You want to talk about looming?
Like the not appropriate, it's got some, you could find it in there, I think, where it's like out of scale or otherwise inappropriate.
Destroy the pattern.
Yeah. But I just,
So a clear, not appropriate about height and,
it's a tough one though,
And-
because you would just say like, well, it can't be too big, but is that enough? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not really how we talk. We would say stuff like, it has to be, out of scale or, like, I just, but then when we're discussing, we're always discussing, is it too big?
Does it
Is it
loom?
looming? Yeah.
Does it loom?
So, or is it too close too, is another one where a lot of times that's kind of, wrapped up in there.
I agree that those should be addressed.
Yeah, okay, good. We just have to say them in a language that is historic preservation-y.
Are you more concerned about commercial buildings or the neighborhoods or both?
We've had examples of both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Then this is the place for it.
Treat them separately?
They are separated. The next two sections are separate out of it.
Yeah.
Like this is the general, it's a little confusing because this is different than other chapters, but this page is like a general for all of them, and then the next, it splits, so.
Is there any benefit to just having two and not having this sort of bridge section? Would it be clearer if we,
to have the
Yeah,
split
so
up
if
the
you're
two
going-
chapters.
I got a new thing, am I residential or am I business? And you just go to that.
We could. There'd be a little bit of,
Be some redundancy.
it'd be
right?
repetitive because these things on this page would then be repeated for both. But actually, I'm not sure that people that are building a residential addition are looking at both right now.
Yeah,
Because,
it's a good idea.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, because you're just going to where do I fit?
yeah.
Skip to residential.
I'm gonna go right
you wouldn't
down to
see
new
this.
To
Residential.
residential, yeah. All right. So we'll think about looming.
And have to be redundant.
Yeah. For new construction in residential settings, just seemed a little bit unbalanced between appropriate and not appropriate.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that we could say a lot more here.
Well, you're going to add looming.
It's sort of there, right? Designing a building
Yeah.
that is too tall
No
or wide
looming.
or otherwise dissimilar in scale. I mean, that's kind of a way to put it right there.
That was my stab at it.
Yeah.
South U.
Yeah.
Looming.
But,
And,
yeah, there could be a lot there. You're right.
yeah,
And I mean, it might end up being repetitive, but
I think what I was thinking when I saw this was like, well, a lot of the things that we say about additions, new additions, you could probably look at that list
Yeah.
and then take a lot of them and
Yeah.
apply to it just a new building.
Yeah.
But just, yeah, they would just be the general things that we consider to be not appropriate. Accessory structures, just a couple clarifications. And then we get to new construction in historic commercial settings, essentially all the downtown. So again, just note about the downtown design guidelines in the character areas. I think this map can be better. That's a general comment.
Yeah.
Is that the map from the beginning of the?
Yeah, this
Isn't
is.
that in the first chapter too?
It's
or
in the
something?
first chapter. Yeah, it's just.
Do we need it here? It's in the first chapter?
I don't think we need it here. I think, is it useful if we do a map that has the character overlay districts and the historic districts, or do you think that starts to confuse people?
Yeah, I hate to get into zoning. I think this is helpful. I'm just questioning whether it should be here or up in the front chapter.
Yeah, I mean, it is in the front chapter, so
Yeah. Oh, okay.
it's not necessarily when we go through the histories of all of the historic districts, it's there. So I don't think it's necessary here, and I think it's kind of a bad map. So if the new one that we get for the front looks really good, then we can repeat it. If not, not needed.
Yeah,
Okay.
by this point in the document, they know where their building is. But it's nice that we're saying that in this area, you should think about these certain, I mean, I didn't even recall that was in the standards because the applicants don't talk about it that much because I think they're just, well, every once in a while we'll get a big project that we'll maybe talk about. But in general, they don't talk about this section of the standards.
Yeah, this definitely speaks to like site plan project, definitely bigger projects. As I think what this chapter is more geared towards, or at least that's how it seems based on how it's written and the information that it includes.
Yeah.
Here's where we get complex.
Yeah. So the next little bit, the relationship with the downtown Ann Arbor design guidelines, when they were originally written, kind of chose specific downtown design guidelines that would be, most of use when thinking about designing in those areas that are both historic districts and downtown. So I think just some general things that like site planning, building massing, building elements, we need to make sure that they are defined at some point in the glossary or appendix of some sort. I think this is kind of more general. I don't know if they necessarily just apply to the downtown areas, but maybe they do in terms of zoning.
I think I would kind of reverse the order of things. I would, one, talk about in commercial historic districts, the historic design guidelines are what apply. The downtown design guidelines might help. Instead of starting with, these might be helpful, but, so always put the new construction must follow the historic district design guidelines. New construction in historic districts must follow the
Yeah, make sure that the historic always goes first, yeah.
Stronger and more sort of active. or-
Yeah. So then,
Does it make sense to, for this to be a different chapter? It was a little confusing when I was reading through it, where it was like, here's new construction, and like the appropriate, not appropriate, and then this, this isn't really, I don't know what this is it's helpful information, but
Yeah.
is it like the Ann Arbor historic standard? Like, it's different, right? It's like
Right.
different than the standards. It's very, I guess it's like shorthand, it's helpful. I don't know if would the developer be familiar with the design guidelines that's proposing?
they should, yeah, if
Right.
they're working downtown, they should be familiar with the design guidelines, and they should be familiar with
Right.
the things that, that I feel like that's probably where they go to first, is the zoning stuff before they think about the historic district stuff. So they should be,
Yeah.
they should know about it. And I guess that's the kind of confusing part, is like they interact, but how much and in what ways? And I don't know that it's exactly clear. I mean, maybe this section we kind of break off and it becomes an appendix of like, if
Yes.
you instead of a chapter, this is
That makes
helpful.
sense. Yeah.
Have you examples of where there was a conflict between the historic district guidelines and the downtown guidelines? I mean, is there contention there? Are there contradictions or confusion?
There's
Well-
one comment about the sustainability section where it's like, it actually calls that out in this, further down in this document here. That says like, there's going to be conflict there, and, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think what should be in this chapter is, there are these, this is what applies, this may be helpful, but if there's contradiction, this is what applies.
I like the idea of either making it a footnote or making it an appendix that says, for further information on the downtown, designing in the downtown, see the
Link
design
to-
guidelines, especially these areas that we could pull out of here. And yeah, Mariana and I talked about, a lot of this needs to just go away. There are things
seemed
here
like
that
it.
we don't need
Yeah.
in here. It's
Yeah.
just confusing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't want to get rid of it completely, because I have used it.
Yeah.
And said to
Right.
people, looky,
Yeah.
looky
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably mostly, formatting is, because the way that it's outlined, or the way that it looks on the page, like you think that it's the same as the design guidelines.
Right.
They go in through
Yeah.
all these details, there's the bullet point, like you think like, oh, I need to be paying attention to this in a way that
particularly
you don't
strongly
necessarily
said.
need to, right. And you can say
Document
as,
applies, here's our document.
Right.
It doesn't really apply.
right, and you can say as many times
Right.
in the
This is
text,
not, yeah.
but just how it looks, so,
So
yeah.
as an appendix, like you were saying, it might then, your context is like, okay, this is additional information, it's not part
Yeah.
of the standards.
yeah, I like that.
Okay.
And we can definitely simplify. And I mean, in general, the downtown design guidelines are generally good, in the way that they kind of emphasize things that we would want to emphasize in the downtown. So they're not crazy, but the way that it's, I just think of the way that it's like, go to section 3.0, site context guidelines, and chapter 2 of the downtown design guideline, like,
Yeah, that's not necessary.
it's not useful. It's like, it's hard to use, so. All right. Well, that answers a lot of questions if we can just kind of take it out and include it in its own separate thing and simplify.
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
Is there kind of anything in the historic district guidelines that refer to or provide guidance around like rooftop additions? Specifically, or just the general, more general, like, don't make it too tall?
I don't think there is, if you're thinking of like really putting rooftop additions. I mean, there's general language about
Additions.
put an addition on the roof, make it low, push it back.
Yeah.
But there's not language about, where to put a doghouse for the stair exit for your new patio with a pergola and a bar and a 40-inch
Yeah, I guess we
TV.
don't want- Yeah. Okay.
But could you make a note, Mariana, to look at, to double check rooftop additions? And also, we should add something about alleys, because every once in a while, we get things about alleys.
I remember, yeah, and to me, it's
Yeah.
more so, I'm more so thinking about commercial than
Right.
residential, thinking of new projects in general. And you say alley, we're probably thinking the same project.
Yeah, all those art
Yeah.
installations and things, yeah. And it's not going to be very long, it's not going to say much, but
Yeah.
it's going to say things like, don't hurt the historic buildings that form the alley, and,
Or like the alley, because I remember the one, just project, I can't recall the address, but it's just like, oh, is the alley, is that like actually a public,
Yeah, the one on Main
like, yeah,
Street.
versus like
Yeah.
typically it's just like, oh, no,
Yeah,
that's the
like
back
on
of the
the
building,
rooftop
it's not,
bar.
it has a lesser precedence than, the
Yeah.
facade, and it's just like, wait a minute, that's actually a significant area of the building as well, it's public facing,
yep.
and should be treated a little bit differently than like a residential, like the rear of a residential property. So,
Yeah.
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 And we should also add something about murals.
They had a drone
Yeah.
video. The big
Can-
ones.
There's nothing
In the
about
standards
murals.
about murals,
No,
okay.
Yeah.
no. No.
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh,
know, I
good.
can see the blue.
We needed more for this chapter, so I'm glad.
We got it.
So are you gonna just trim it, you think, or, well, you're gonna put it in an appendix, and then are you going, like, you'll just, because I feel like we're not giving you specific, we're giving you very general feedback, but is it enough, you kind of know where you want to take
Yeah.
it? Okay.
Yeah, I think this is probably one where we might come back and say, look, this is what we did. Do you like it? Do you not like it?
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just bullet points that are the downtown design guidelines.
Right.
So we'll see. We'll reformat
Seems like
and
we
we'll come
don't need
back.
that. What would Commissioner Smith say if he was here? He kind of represents the zoning. Would he have a comment? I would rely on him right now to let me know what to think about this, but anyway.
We'll catch
ask
him on the
next-
rewrite.
We'll ask him next time. Yeah, because, he's just done all that zoning work. So.
Yeah.
So Dave, do you want to talk about sustainability or just kind of leave it to the reorganization?
It just, sort of bothered me that was like, oh gosh, we're specifically calling out that, like, any historic issue would take precedent over any sustainable issue or something. I don't know, it
Yeah.
hit me where it hurts, I guess, where it's like, well, come on, do we have to say that, like, so clear, unless there's specific
Yeah,
examples
because I
of
don't
what-
think we do that.
I agree, but it is like
Yeah.
kind of the stereotype, let's say, and there are issues,
Yeah.
there's issues where you just, single pane windows or something, but
Let's not call it out.
it seemed like, let's not call it, unless there's a specific one that, like, okay, this specific issue or something,
Yeah.
let's call that out, but just in general, let's not call it out because it's not true.
And speaking of solar, we do have solar design guidelines, but they are not incorporated into this document. They're
Yeah,
standalone, so
right.
They will be.
they will be.
At the end, yeah.
Yeah.
And then these are just more of the downtown design guidelines, kind of as they apply here. There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them.
It's helpful, but it's not specific enough, I guess, for it to be
Yeah, it maybe
really
gets
helpful, right? Yeah.
into confusing. These are, yep, still downtown.
Some of this we should use in our design guidelines.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, who knows? Maybe there's some that we want to include in appropriate or not appropriate because they're
'Cause they're
good enough, yeah.
Good general advice,
Yeah. Okay, so the downtown character areas, does that get confusing with the historic district stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't, again, that's getting into zoning, and I think we should just reference it and say,
Okay.
for specifics of the downtown character areas, see
I think,
the other.
yeah,
design
because I think
guidelines.
that there's only it's only a handful of parts. So maybe we can specifically say, part of the Liberty Division character area, or part of, the Liberty Street Historic District falls into these character areas. See the Unified Development Code for.
Don't we kind of get into that it was the first or second chapter? Like at the beginning of the document, we talk about the different areas. Well, we talk about the different historic districts at least. And then within downtown, I know we're talking about something, and then it just seems like this, if it's anywhere, it's either in another appendix or it seems redundant to the front of the document. It's kind
Sort
of
of
fun
confusing, because it kind of says, so we've got these, we talked about these historic districts, but now we have these other character areas. And they're not the same, but
Right.
they overlap.
Right.
But they're not defined, like the historic districts have specific boundaries.
Yeah.
This Main Street
I think,
area,
I think in that appendix, there might be a paragraph or two
Yeah.
sentences that say, be aware that
In the
some
downtown, yeah.
historic districts overlap with
Yeah.
different downtown character areas. See the other design guidelines, and then just remove this
I think so.
5 pages.
Yeah.
Because I hate to mix zoning with design guidelines.
Well, and I think this gets even more confusing because you think character areas, you think way more similar to historic districts, and
That
Yeah.
sounds like it should be
Yeah.
a historic
yeah,
district.
yeah, because we talk so much about being sympathetic, and keeping with the character.
right, yeah.
But not
Character is a
these
big word.
characters. But not these
Yeah,
characters.
it's a loaded term.
Okay, and we can delete zoning beyond, refer to zoning for more information.
Good.
And yeah, I think the end of this chapter is just character areas.
Yeah.
Good.
So there we go.
Yeah, very nice.
So we'll take out all of that and then put some more new stuff in.
That sounds good.
Hopefully we'll have a net loss.
I think we will. This is a very wordy chapter.
It is. It is.
And thank you for going through it word by word, and presumably the entire design guidelines too. So thank you, Mariana.
Anything else on design guidelines,
Yeah,
guys?
just gonna say, congrats to
Yeah.
us on the commission. We made it through
Yay.
the whole
We'll
document.
come back to you with the updates.
Thank you very much. And that's it for new business. So now we've got 2 months of minutes because we didn't have a quorum last month, so we've got April and May. So I'm assuming that you all looked through those, and if there's any changes or corrections, let me know right now. Okay, hearing and seeing no objection, the minutes are approved as presented. Thank you to Courtney Manor for always providing those minutes while Brittany Alexander's away. Any update on Brittany? Are we going to be without Brittany for
I think she
months
comes back in
longer?
August.
Okay, we'll look forward to Brittany coming back in August. Moving on to reports from commissioners. Are there any reports this month? No? Okay. Let's go to assignments. We've got the review committee, Monday, July 7th. It's a 5 PM. It's a July 10th meeting. Anyone interested?
I could do it too.
All right. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you both for that. That was Commissioner Calderon and Commissioner Kaplan.
I should warn you
Yep.
guys that we do have at least 5 sites to visit, so, and the deadline's not for another week.
Wow.
So
Okay. It's going to be a good one.
At least the full 2 hours, please. Thank you. And I won't be at that meeting, so apologies to Mariana.
Fantastic. Well, are there reports from staff this month?
Nope.
Okay. Doing a lot of air conditioner staff approvals, or?
Not so many this year. I think everyone did that during COVID.
All right.
I haven't had very many.
Very good. Okay, L, concerns of commissioners. Any concerns? No. Okay, good. Are there any communications this month? I didn't see any.
No.
Okay. So in that case, we will go to adjournment. I now adjourn the June 12th, 2025 Historic District Commission meeting at 9:05 PM. Thank you all.